Today I'll be showing you how I made this awesome end grain chopping board. You see, the thing I love the most about DIY is that all of us can do something to a certain extent of perfection, or at least try to learn as fast as you can from YouTube creators like myself. How's it, guys? I'm sure. Let's jump right in and I show you how I made this chopping board. Hopefully I inspire you to make one yourself someday.
Quote of the day: with the courage to begin and the discipline to endure, victory becomes a matter of time. By Unknown.
A friend of mine recently gave me some hardwood boards for some minor repairs in his house. At first I didn't have a plan on what exactly I would do with these boards. Then I remembered my mom had asked me for a chopping board. So here we are. This board has this interesting pattern of heartwood and sapwood. I'll cut this in half, making two 1 meter long boards. I used my Bosch hand planer to flatten the rough edges. I had previously cut a small strip from this specific board that I used while I was building this plywood cabinet. I'd appreciate if you would go and check out that build after you watch this one. Let's head over to the table saw. So I cut up these boards to 4 by 4 centimeter dimensions, and as you can see with all this smoke that's happening, my table saw was having a tough time with this hardwood. It got my wood looking like braai meat. With my table saw out of commission, I had to go back to the hand planer, planing all the sides. But then I started noticing deep gouges into the wood. The planer blade had given up on me as well. My trusty bell sander came to my rescue. Then I sanded them as flat as I could, following with cutting them down to 50 centimeters each, making 8 pieces. With using only feeling, like Uncle Roger usually advises, I removed one piece which didn't feel like it was going with the rest of the bunch. So now we get to the controversial part of this build, putting some plywood into a chopping board. The main issue here being mostly that plywood is a softwood. The one that I use is softwood. For myself, I just wanted to see what would happen if I do these two things together. I was totally in love with the idea of boxing hardwood with plywood around it, so there was nothing really gonna hold me back from doing it. Even if the wood explodes, so be it. The other reason I saw plywood to be fit for this task is that my pieces weren't really square, so I figured that applying pressure with the plywood in between would then fill out those gaps, and it did. So to get that muscular kind of pattern that you saw in the beginning, I made all the red parts of the wood to face up and the brown parts to face down. Then it eventually formed that pattern, which I didn't know it would form that way anyway. This is the first glue up in this build. The next one will then start revealing exactly how the pattern will look like. I left the glue to set overnight, then there was some intense belt sanding that followed, trying to sand this block as flat as I could. I used some 80 grit sanding paper. With pencil scribings on the wood, I would sand these pencil markings till they are gone, and then I kept repeating this process till it was smooth. Once I was satisfied with the sanding, I then started freshening up the one edge. And then I made a stop block using some double-sided tape, cutting 5 centimeter strips on the miter saw. This will be the final thickness of my chopping board. Let's head over to the table saw again, cutting 5 centimeter strips of plywood to complete the boxed look I wanted in my chopping board. So this part is crucial for how the chopping board will look in the end. I started rearranging these strips. The pattern wasn't easily noticeable with the naked eye, so I had to use my phone to help out a lot with this to get that look that I wanted. It was forming some kind of a muscular pattern. Could you do me a solid and smash that subscribe button for me? It would really mean a lot to me. Thanks. Okay, now it's time to apply a thin layer of glue on the plywood sheet as well as the hardwood part. So this will form the cubes that you're seeing now. Besides removing some of the glue, this is the first time when you're wiping it down, you'll start seeing the sort of a pattern that it's forming, like you can see here. So I think at this point I started noticing that this last part was out of focus of some sort. It wasn't the same pattern as Shaquille. Okay, I had to get that guy out of the editing room. Yeah, so I had to rearrange and then I add a thin layer of glue as well, and I wipe down everything. Then we give the glue a little time to set. At this point, I was really excited to get to the final bits of this build. I think I even enjoyed the sanding, imagine. With the damage I saw from yesterday's sanding, I thought I would use a vacuum today to try and reduce the mad dust that this thing produces. But I constantly needed to reattach the tip. It wasn't really a good fit. I'm still yet to make a dust cyclone that will have proper attachments later on. As you can see here, I would use my table to try and see where is it rocking, and then I had to sand down that hill or something like that till it became flat. So this part was really fun. The first wipe after thorough sanding. Look at that. Woo! I love it. And I had to square up the edges using my battery powered circular saw. It started failing. I had to take out the big boy. It also started smoking up as well, but I think it's the hardwood. That's the big problem. As you can see here, look at that. It's crazy. I don't think I'll be using hardwood anytime soon again. I'm not a fan. I made sure to sand everything thoroughly, starting with the bell sander, following with a random orbital sander. Sanded everything nice all the way up to 220 grit. Then it was time to use a roundover bit to get rid of those sharp corners that we have. This is the bit. This is my brand new secondhand Triton router I got from Cash Crusaders for only 800 bucks. New ones of these usually cost these ridiculous prices you can see here. I'll be using this router on my router table edition on my ultimate workbench. So I did several passes of this roundover bit. Following this, on the bottom of the board, I had to make some spaces where the fingers can rest when you're trying to pick up the chopping board, since it will be a heavy one. I used this 18mm straight bit to make those grooves. I'm really glad you're enjoying the build, you're making it this far in the video. I'd really appreciate if you would help me out by liking the video and commenting what you think about this plywood, hardwood and grain chopping board that I made. I thought it would be an interesting one. I'll see how it lasts and things like that. Please remember to check out my other content as well on my channel. I'm a new creator. I've just about to hit my 100 subscriber milestone. I've got more than 20 videos. I'm doing it, but I would really appreciate your support in this journey of mine. Thanks a lot, guys. I used some coconut oil I found around the house to treat this chopping board. With this specific chopping board, it's very important to try and seal this wood with oils. This will prevent water soaking and wood rotting. That's the one.